Hi everyone, Sandy here. Welcome to the Country Craft Creations New Year's Eve 2018 crop. I'm excited to share with you this project that I came up with many years ago. I have 3 Christmas card books that I've already made from the past, starting in 2010. So I have 2 years in each book. This is my 2010, 2011. I like to use just leftover papers, Christmas papers, patterns, my cards, stickers, all kinds of things that I might have in my stash, ribbons. This one is 2012, 2013. It's not as thick as the first one because I've been getting less cards, maybe because I don't send out as many either. And then this one is my 2014, 2015. So I have here my stack of cards. What I do is each year is I just tie them together. Like this is 2016. This is 2017 and 2018 are still downstairs in the basket, but I'll be adding them to another book. So this is a lot of fun to do. I'm going to set these two aside, and I want to share with you real quick what this book is all about. Now this is ideally a book to put cards that you've received. Not the cards that you haven't sent, or just to make a book with cards, but cards that you've received from people that you want to keep the pretty fronts, you want to keep their photos, you want to keep their letters, you want to keep their signature and the pretty verses that come inside. Now, I don't keep them all whole. Some of them I cut into pieces, but I try to keep them all together. This one, I really, really love the front. I used some vintage Santa paper. And for the spine on 2 of these, I use what is called Craft Text. Now, I did not put that in the supply list because I know a lot of you may not have that or don't even know what that is. It is a paper-like fabric that usually just comes in neutral colors like black, craft, I think white. I don't know if they've added any new colors. You can run it through your embossing machine. That's what I did on this one. I've got the dots on this one. The other one has snowflakes. But you can also do your spine in paper. So that's what this one is a paper spine. It seems to work okay. We don't do the spine until after the book's completely put together and got all the cards in it. So if you wanted to find you some craft text, you certainly could do that. Or you could make one maybe out of fabric or out of a canvas or burlap or something like that if you wanted a stronger back, because it is an open type spine. So here's the pages in here. They're not attached to the spine. So that's something you might want to consider, and you probably won't get done today, tonight, or tomorrow. But I want to give you a good start on your book. I'm going to show you how to make the covers, how to make the pages, add flaps, and I'm going to give you some ideas on the cards. But you're pretty much on your own as far as decorating, because I don't know how many cards you have, and I don't know how you want to do your cards. Do you want to cut them up? Do you want to keep them whole? Do you want to put them in pockets? There's so many different variables that you might want to do with your project. And so you just need to know the basic of how to make it, the pages, the cover, and how it's going to be put together. That's what you need to know today. So this is a challenge to get you started on making one of these. You have, I believe, until the end of January the 2nd to do this project. It does not have to be completed. Just show a photo of what you've gotten done, and then you'll be in the running for a chance to win a prize. So it's real important that you do take your picture and share it in, I believe, the event for this particular project. Not on the main crop page, but in the event. And it would be called Sandy's Christmas card book. Okay, so that's what you're going to need to look at. Now, the one I'm going to do tonight, I am going to use a ribbon closure, and I will be picking out my ribbons later. You're going to need some kind of stickers or a label maker where you can make a label, or where you can make your the years, because you do want to put the years on your book, on your cover somewhere. Stickers are great. You can spell out the words Christmas card or just cards. Like this one, I have Christmas cards 2014 and 2015. This is done with stickers. And so when you open this up, it has the chipboard hard cover, front and back. Add your decorative paper. Then you have your first page. This one is done I have a card front here to go with this. This was the paper, this was the card, and then you turn it and open. Some of my cards, I like to leave them whole. So this is a handmade card. So I've got here attached, and since I've got 2 years in this book, the first one I started out, I do a date to show where I'm at. This one is a photo card, and it was too long, so I cut the picture part here and cut this part and put it here with it. Added some punched out snowflakes, and I really like how it turns out. Then this one has a pocket. For this card, I decided to make a tuck spot and keep the entire card, just because I like the whole picture. Could have mounted the whole picture on there. This one was a photo card. So these work great for those kind of cards where you can just mat them down on the page. Some I leave whole. Some that are front and back, I put the front on a flap, and I put the picture on the inside there. This one, I decided to make a swing with a brad, which you do before you put the pattern paper down. So the front of the card swings out, and then the sentiment and the signatures on the inside like that. It's just different treatments to give it some variety. This one was a large double-sided card, I believe. I put one card on the front here, then I cut this out so that it has flaps to fold, and then this one I folded in half. So you just work with what you've got and trim them down to fit so that you can see some of your paper. This one was a whole card with photos, so I just glued the whole thing down as I did this one. So sometimes you just want to keep the entire card. This one I cut apart. I put the front here, the sentiment here, and the I think this may have been on the envelope, and then here I put their greeting, and this is where I stamped 2015. This one is the entire card, but because they sent me a newsletter, family newsletter, I did the thumbprint and put this in here. So I don't want to take too long on this, but I just want to give you some ideas on how you can decorate your card. This one was really big, so I put the pictures here, I cut them down, and then I trim this down to fit on the side. This one, split it up as well. I add flaps where you can put the pictures, I pull the sentiment out with a tab. So many things you can do. You can use parts of your cards to make the pockets. And these had several pictures, so I cut them into little photos, cut the card apart and mounted it there. A gift tag. This one is a beautiful glittery card. It just went perfect with this paper that says Silent Night. Here's another swing with a brad where I've got the image here and the parts of the card all attached because it was bigger than what I had space for. And then a card here, and I added in some washi tape to make the hinge to cut it down here and then add the card to the front. So it's a lot of fun to play with, cutting the pictures apart, big cards. Sometimes I make a hinge out of patterned paper so that I can see the front and the back of a card like this one. This is patterned paper made into a hinge. And this flips up. Here's some washi tape here. A pocket. You make pocket out of your paper and just insert the cards. This was too big to put this away, and I didn't want to cut a whole lot down out of the image, so I just kept the entire card. And this one's another whole card, another card with a letter in a pocket, and then this one on the back. So that completes that card. So let's get started. I want to show you how to make your cover first. I will be using the green this time, the Evergreen Artisan Cardstock for my pages. I have my chipboard already cut. And where's my notebook? Because I can't remember the sizes, and I could get my ruler out. The chipboard, you want two that are 9 inches tall by 6.5 wide. I make all my Christmas books the same size. You could change the size if you wanted to, if you want it bigger, wider, whatever you want. So I'm going to set my cards aside for now. And I've picked out my pattern paper that I want to use. I had all of this that I had bought several years ago. This is Simple Stories. I just love the patterns. Intended to make an album with them, didn't. So this is perfect to use for that. And I've already cut my papers for my covers. So to have the two big sheets, I'm going to use the red with the snowflake. You want two that are 8 inches wide by 10.5 tall. You're going to independently wrap each cover piece. We are not going to be assembling a cover. We're going to make a front and a back cover. We put them together when we put the pages, attach the pages. So I'm going to be using my art glitter glue from Country Craft Creations, and I'm just going to put a good amount of glue on one side of this chipboard. And I'm sorry if I'm going fast. I don't want to take up too much time of this New Year's Eve crop event. You will have time to rewatch this. This is on YouTube, and work on it more tonight if you're staying up all night or staying up late. Or you might want to work on it on New Year's Day, and then you also have January the 2nd to work on it before the deadline of getting these into the events, adding your project into the events. So let's make sure we burnish this really well. I'm using this plainer paper here because I'm going to add more decorations. I don't know what yet, but I will. So let's put the one on this one as well. Right here. So add your glue. Try to get a good amount on here so it stays down good. You can also use the score tape sheets that you can order from Country Craft Creations, or score tape around the perimeter and some across the center. I'm just going to center this like this, and we're going to press that down and turn it over and burnish. Okay, so now we're ready to miter the corners. Work on this one first. I am going to fold these up and get me a line. Now there's two ways to miter. You can miter going at a diagonal across, or you can cut out the square, whichever works best for you. Sometimes I do one way or the other, not always locked down to the same. I'm thinking this time I'm going to do the angle cut. Now this paper that I'm using, where I'm scoring it, it is going to have a little crease line, which just adds to the shabby look. I'm not concerned about it. It depends on different papers, different paper collections, which one is going to do that. So I'm going to take my bigger scissors, and I'm going to cut at an angle about 1/8 of an inch from the tip. You don't want to cut too close, or you'll have chipboard showing. And I know I'm leaving a wide margin here. You could trim it down some if you wanted to. I just kind of like the wider margin. So I'm going to glue down this first, the long pieces first. I put a line of glue right up against the chipboard, and then glue on the flap. You can use score tape if you want to. Just bring this over and pull it down really good and burnish it down. Now, if you don't like if your paper is doing a little bit of fine crack lines like mine is, you can use some ink on that edges to hide that if you don't like that. These particular books, I use different papers, sometimes not, different paper lines. They're going to do that versus using cardstock. Now, if you prefer, you could wrap this with cardstock, with the artisan cardstock, and not have that, and then just pattern the front and inside and have it wrapped with the cardstock. So that would work too. It's just a preference of what you might want to do. Okay, so when you do it this way, you're going to have a little overhang here. You need to press this down right here up against the edge of your chipboard. Right here. Press that down. And then when you bring this over, you're going to have a better corner that way. So So I'm going to put glue here. Bring this over and burnish it down. I'm going to get a good stick there. And then we'll go ahead and do the other side. Make sure you press that down there up against that line. So go ahead and wrap both pieces, your front and back covers, exactly the same. Now in the cutting list, I had you cut papers to cover the inside of your book right here, but you do not do that until you have attached your pages in. So I have already cut mine. These are 8 3/4 tall by 6 1/4 wide. So I'm going to be doing it like this. But this is not until after we get the pages in, because you want to hide where you've attached your page. So set these aside. I went ahead and cut mine so that I don't forget that I have those. So I'm going to go ahead and speed up the camera and wrap this piece. Okay, so there's both covers. I'm going to grab my Potion Color Philosophy ink. You can order these from Country Craft Creations. I love using this for inking. And I just use my ink pad just like this. So where there's any areas where that paper is showing some white, I'm just going to hit it with this right straight from the pad. Kind of add some vintage look to that. Some worn edge, some ink here. This one here's got a lot of white showing on it. Maybe some of it's glue. So I'm going to get all these inked up on the edges. So this is optional, depends on your paper. You might not need it. That's a little bit more right there. Okay, I think that works. So we're going to set those aside and we'll get started on our pages. Okay, for your pages, I am using the green, the Evergreen Artisan Cardstock. These measure 6-inch wide by 8.5 tall. I took 7 sheets of 12 by 12 cardstock. And you can cut it in half so you get your 6-inch width. So you get 2 pages out of a 12 by 12 sheet. You get 2 pages out of that. Save your, cut off your leftover pieces to use for pockets, small flaps, and maybe for your hinges. We're going to use 2 of these. 2 will be on the front and the back, will be what's attached to the chipboard cover. And then you will add your pattern paper over that once those are attached into the book. And then I usually like to start out with about 10 or 12 pages in my book. It's going to vary depending on how many cards you have. You may need a few more pages. You may need less. You can put as many pages as you want, make your book as thick as you want, because you'll do the spine cover after the book's assembled. So I have 14 cut. These can also, this size will also be used for your full-size flaps. Now to put these together to save paper, because I cut these out of one piece, 2 pages out of one piece of 12 by 12 cardstock. If I had cut it 6.5 and then scored it, you would have only got 1 out of a piece of paper. So you also cut hinges or strips of paper. I probably have 20 to 24 here. that I cut. May not need that many, but I went ahead and used 2 sheets of paper and cut that down. You can use some of your scraps instead. So these are 1 inch wide by the 8.5 inch tall. So they're the same height as your page, and that's what we're going to use to attach them together. So you can go ahead and score all these now or score as you need. I'm going to go ahead and score several of these. Speed up the camera. You're going to put your 1 inch at the top, and you're just going to score at a 1/2 inch right down the middle. That one looks like it was kind of narrow on one end. It'll be okay. It's the score line that's going to be important. So this is a better cut. This is a 1 inch. So I score it right down the middle at a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to do that on all of them, or quite a few of them to start with. You might just want to do 6 or 8 and then score them as you need them. It's just totally up to you. Okay, so I have these scored. I didn't score all of mine, but most of them. One thing about these card books you may have noticed, the pages do not have gussets. They are flat. This is a flat book. I'm not adding any extra thick flowers, ephemera, or any kind of embellishments in between. The only thickest thing would be maybe a brad or two. Your decorations is going to be your cards and your picture photos or picture cards that you've received. So there'll be no added lace or things like that. You might add some button twine or string, which is not very thick, to make on your tags, or some ribbon. But we're not going to have a lot of thick embellishments, so these do not have any gussets between the pages. It's kind of like made like a regular book. So first thing you're going to do is take one of your hinges. So that one's, I didn't get that one scored. Okay, and you're going to fold down that score line and burnish it really well. And if you're using the artisan cardstock, you may actually want to fold it the other way and burnish it again, because this is what's going to be turning the page. So you want to be able to turn. You're going to take your first one, and I'm going to use my scoreboard to help me at first. As it gets thicker, I won't be able to. But you're going to glue a hinge, the fold of your hinge, right up against the cut edge of a page. So I'm going to take my glue. You can use score tape if you want to. I'm getting to where I use a lot of glue. You have a few minutes to reposition it if you have to. Whereas if you're using the score tape and you get it on crooked, you do have to use undo to get that undone. But undo will not work with glue. So you have to decide what you need to use for your skill level. So just push this into your score pal along the edge. This helps to get it really straight. Burnish that. Use the bone folder to burnish that. You want to make sure it sticks in. This gives you your first hinge here, like this. Wipe off any excess glue. Now then, I'm going to flip this. This is going to be the front. This is what's going to glue down to my cover. So I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to mark front, glue to cover. This way, this seam here is going to go into my cover like this. So I'm going to fold this hinge down right here, and I'm going to take my next page and I am going to glue it right along the fold line, the cut edge of the page along the fold line of this hinge. So the glue's going here. I'm just going to push it in here to keep it straight. and bring this one down over it and push and line it up. So you make sure they're lined up on all the edges. Burnish that. Burnish the inside. Wipe off any excess glue. Okay, so this is the first page. This is the part that goes onto the cover. This is page 1, page 2. We're ready to glue another hinge. So you put the fold line of your page, grab a hinge, burnish it both directions. And I do apologize for the roar of my heater. It's gotten cold here in Texas, and it's going to get really cold, for us at least. And so the heater came on, and I didn't notice that, so I forgot to stop the video, so you're going to have that in the background. And fortunately, it's right above my craft room where the heater unit is, and the vent that blows into my craft room is right above my table. So that makes it extra loud, so I do apologize for that. I'll try to pause when I hear it coming on and then get back into it. So here's the next page. And so it's going to get a little thicker, and you can't use that for a positioning guide. So you're just going to keep stacking these together, hinge to a page. And you create as many pages as you feel you need or want for your book. Let me see here. This one's looking a little bit off. I want to make sure it's even down here. I don't know if I cut this one wrong, but I'm going to do it like that. So if it's off a little bit here on this part, it's going to be okay. You're not going to see that much. You do want your pages lined up. So let's get the next hinge. And you're just going to keep doing that for however many pages you think you want. And like I said, I use one for the front cover, one attached to the back cover. I like to have from 10 to 12 in between for about 2 years of cards, Christmas cards. Now, some of you may be doing a different occasion than Christmas. I know I read that a lot of you have either baby cards or birthday cards, and these work great for any card occasion. Some of you maybe didn't keep them organized by year, and that's okay. However you want to make your card books, that is totally up to you. It is yours. So let's just keep going. And I'm not going to do this all on camera, all of mine. Now that you know how, you just keep adding them together, however many you feel you need to have for your book. Okay, so I'm continuing to glue my pages together with the hinges. And I wanted to show you real quick that sometimes, well, actually the most important thing when you're gluing these pages to the hinge is to make sure that the edges, the ends and the edges are even. So occasionally, I don't know if you can see it, occasionally you're going to have just a little bit off here where the page hits the hinge. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's my cutting, but it's okay because this part's going to be covered with the spine. You want to make sure that this part is even. So I'm going to show you this one, what I'm doing. I'm getting my hinge burnished, folded and burnished. And again, make sure you do it both directions. And I'm gluing. Putting glue on just one side right now. After your book starts getting thicker, this is where it's important. So I'm just going to put the hinge on evenly right along with the fold of the book and burnish that down. And then the next glue is going to go here on this hinge. And to keep this edge even, I stand it up. Take my page, just one, and get started on one end here. But I make sure that where it's even is at the bottom. The ends right here at the where it's flat, and right here you make sure it's even. So there's where you see that little bit of a line where it's not right at the edge of the fold, and that's okay. So you burnish that down as long as it is straight here. Okay, so keep doing them. I am going to put 14 together, so I'll have a front and a back to attach the cover. I'll have 12 pages in between, and then I will show you how to do flaps, which is really easy. So I have all mine glued together. I went ahead and did 12 between the first and the last one. These right here. And so I have 12. That's usually the most I put in a page in a book. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. Keep my fingers crossed that I have enough pages. If you want to make put your cards in and start adding on and wait to put your back cover, you can, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how to put these on. So this is the front cover, and I'm just going to square it up into my scoreboard. Now, when you're putting this type down, you're going to be gluing or using score tape on this entire front where I put front glue to cover. I don't know if you can see that, front glue to cover. This whole thing is going to glue down into your book. And you want to line it up so that the folded edge, the spine edge, is flush with the cover. And it's going to give you a margin over here. Make sure everything's in straight. And then you're going to center it top to bottom. So since this one measures, the pages measure 8.5, and the cover measures 9, the little bit extra because of the wrapping, you're going to want about 1/4 of an inch on each side. So if it helps you to mark this lightly with a pencil at 1/4 inch, then go ahead and do that, and you can erase that. So this way you have your straight line down here at the bottom. And I'm going to double check, and that looks like it's about right. So I'm going to square this in, and I'm going to take this one side that says front glue to cover, and I'm going to cover it with glue. Now you can use score tape sheets if you want to, or strips of score tape. I'm just going to generously put glue on this. And it gives me a little wiggle room. Now this is the right side is the back, so this is where it's going to be flush right along that pencil line, and make sure it's flush all up and down. So that looks about right. Make sure. And we open this up and then burnish it really well here on the inside. So that's your inside cover. If your pencil line is showing, just go ahead and erase that. Okay, so there's that one. That needs a little ink on the edge there. Okay. Now if you're ready, you can go ahead and put your back one on the same way. And if you have your front one straight, I know that looks a little thin, but as we add stuff in it, it's going to start spreading out. So I'm going to go ahead, line this one up here, put my glue on the back. And again, like I said, if you want to wait to put this back cover on until you're sure about how many pages you want in your book, you can do that. This is going to go. This is to the open to the left, and this is this part here. And let's make sure we're getting it, the covers lined up. Open it up and burnish. Okay, so there we have the hard cover on the front and on the back. Now then, if you have your pattern paper cut and you want to go ahead and put this on the inside here, so that's where it's going to go there. Ink the edges if you want. And this is going to glue in right there. I like that dot too. Maybe I'll have it for some of my pages. I don't know how many sheets I had of this particular print, but I do like the dots. That's the way it always is with double paper. You like both sides. So that's why you have to buy extra. And burnish that down. I like that. The December inspected by number 25. And then I'm going to open up this and my other one. Ink it too. And get that one glued in. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and select your printed papers. Cut them all down to size to fit your pages, but don't glue anything in. I glue them in as I'm adding my cards in. But I go ahead and get them cut and inked, so I have them ready, especially if you want them to match side to side. And then we're also going to put in some flaps. And I tend to add my flaps in as I need them. But I'm just going to show you on a couple of them how to do it. It's real easy. You probably already know how. Okay, so there's that. And there's the beginnings of our card book. So I've cut my pattern papers. I forgot to tell you to make sure that you cut one piece. You pick the piece that you want for your spine. You want to leave it at 12 inches wide so that you can trim it down where you need it or want it, and cut it to, let's see, 9 inches. Is that correct? 9 inches tall. So it's the height of your album. Got papers loose in here. Take that out. I was just laying things around to see how I wanted it. So this is going to be the one I picked out because I like that snowman on the stamp, and it will, you know, fit there like that. Of course, I don't need the whole 12, but I want to save this so that I don't use it on something else. Okay. Now, the pattern papers for your full size, I just cut a bunch of papers. I may have more than I need. I may need more. But I cut all these at 5 7/8 pattern papers for my pages. Yeah, 5 7/8 wide by 8 3/8 tall. So they will fit on these full size. And I don't put them in until I'm adding in my cards. So there's that dot. I did have extra of it, like that. and you have extras of your cardstock you can use for flaps. And I'm going to show you how. I'm going to put a flap in here in the book. Let's see. Done any? Okay, I added a flap already to this inside. Now this one is cut. You can either score your flat pieces or you can use your sheets and your hinges to make them. This one is was a piece of paper scored. So you're going to make them the size that you need for your cards or where you need them. So this particular one was a piece of paper cut 4.5, scored 1/2 inch, glued to the cut edge of this page right here. So this is the first flap on the inside here. I'm going to flip this one over and I'm going to add a full-size flap right here on the back of page 2. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So you take, put all these out of the way, you take a full sheet, the same size that you cut before, 6 inches by 8.5. You take one of your 1-inch hinges, preferably that's got the score mark already on it, and you're going to fold that and burnish. I've lost my bone folder. So hold on just a second. There it is, under my ruler. I know I'm not the only one who gets so much stuff on their table that they lose what they're working with. So, I hope y'all having a good time with this crop. Ringing in the new year, 2019. Hard to believe it's already 2019 soon. Okay, so you're going to take this the same way you did your pages. Take your glue. I've left mine open for a while, but it still works. Put it on half of a hinge. Put the fold towards a cut line. Burnish that down. And instead of a page, this is now a flap. So grab your book, and where you want the flap, which is I'm going to put it here, and always put your extra flaps, your full page flaps, to the outer, attach it to the outer edge. You don't want to attach it like this. It would just make it another page. You could do that if you want an extra page in there. But if you're wanting it a flap that extends out, you're going to put the fold line up against the cut line of your page. So I'm going to go ahead, put glue on the back side here. And then we're going to glue this in. Just make sure you line it up top to bottom and right along the edge of your cut page, of the page here. Stand up so I can see a little better. Okay, and then you open it up and you burnish it. Okay, so there you got it. There's your flap. Just make sure it folds in. If it needs trimmed a little bit, you can do that with your trimmer and see how it folds up inside your book. And then that would be where you decide, do you want a magnet? So if you want a magnet on this flap here, you would put one here and on the page. So I'll show you that real quick. I'm sure most of you know how to do a magnet. You take a plus and a minus. Now, I just grabbed my big ones. You can use small ones. I think for this flap, a big one probably would work better. Peel the paper backing off. You've put the magnets together metal to metal. That leaves the paper on the outside. I've got glue on my fingers. And put it in a way so that it gets covered by paper. Peel the backing off. And then attach down and separate. Now if it's going to be a bit before you put your pattern paper down, just put a little piece of score tape on that magnet to keep it in place until you're ready. Just like that. And of course you would cut pattern paper to fit this flap. So that's how you do a full page flap right there. And then you can also do short flaps from your scraps. Say maybe you want a short flap over here for a card. So you would take your hinge and cut it down to fit. There are my big scissors. I'm gonna have to clean my table off here. Cut that down. Fold and burnish that hinge. Now this is not going to be a step-by-step tutorial showing you how to finish your book. You've got your basic pages. You've got, you know how to do flaps. And I'm going to show you real quick on just a couple of cards how to cut those down and decide where you want to put them. Whether you want to keep a whole card or cut it. Okay, so let's line this up against the cut edge. And then you're going to put your flap along the edge or in the center, wherever you want it to go. Put it on before you put down your pattern paper. And I'm going to put mine up at the top, right along that cut edge. And then burnish that down, and you have a flap. And if you want to extend it, you can take a longer piece. Let me show you real quick. So I'm going to take me a hinge, cut it 6 inches long, or just use your scissor to cut it to fit. Glue that one on. Now I'm doing this just hoping that I have cards that will actually work with these flaps. You will make yours to work with your cards. So burnish that down. So that's going to attach here. I can put it in the center. So I am going to fold this. Could actually score it, probably be easier. Let's lift this up. So not counting your hinge, you have your 12-inch here. So let's score it at 8 and 4. 8 and 4. I think that will work. So you just fold it in. Burnish and fold again and burnish. So that gives you the fold out for cards. Grab your book and find the page you want to put it on. So I'm going to put it on this side over here. Some glue to the hinge. And glue it to the page right along the edge. Just line it up, open it up, and burnish that hinge in. And this particular one, you probably will want to put a magnet here and here, just like that. Okay, that's the assembly. So I'm going to grab some cards, show you that real quick. And this tutorial will be done. You can watch it again. It'll be on YouTube. You can keep watching it as many times as you want. And so let me grab some cards. It's in my 2016. So I'm going to open up the book. And on my first page, I'm probably going to put something like this on here. I've already inked the edges. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this one down. This is kind of like my first page, my cover page. And to be honest, I don't think a whole lot about the what papers I use or which card. I just start putting things in. So line that up, burnish that down, grab a card. So, blessings to you this Christmas. So that goes right there. That's pretty like that. These trim just a little bit. Not a whole lot. I'm just taking a tiny bit off each end without cutting away the sentiment. Let me see if this fits now. It's still a little long on this side. Have to cut the chimney away, but that's okay. And so this one, I'm just going to glue it right here. Glue on the back of the card. I'm going to leave the card intact. And I'm just going to glue it right here on the front. Like that. And then I may find some decorative flat element to put down here, or one of the cut aparts. And let's see here, what's this one? This is a letter. Find the card that goes with, and I'll show you how to do that. Long letter in that one. I'm going to share real quick what to do with a card and a letter. So this is a card. My friend always writes me a letter. She ran out of room on the cards. She wrote on a piece of paper. So I take the card, I'm going to leave it whole, and I'm going to turn it into a pocket. Now I don't want it to go all the way down, so I'm going to put my glue where I want the pocket to start on the inside. And then on each side, you add glue like that. Leave the top open. And then I'm just going to glue it in here on this page. Put this up and burnish that in, keeping it straight there. And you let it dry for just a minute. I am not going to put a notch in it because I would lose some of the writing. And I'm just going to refold this like this. This is from a high school friend. We don't see each other very often, but we exchange a letter and a card almost every Christmas. So this is going to go, and it kind of updates each other. So this will go in right here where I leave it sticking out just a little bit so that I know that there's something in there. So that's how you do a letter with a card. Now see, this one is going to fit pretty good right there on this one flat. I like that. I just need some pattern paper behind it. Something with a little contrast, because this is black. So I'm going to find a scrap. I'm not going to cut one of my whole ones. And something I've already got some scraps. Keep all your scraps, by the way. I'm going to ink that real quick. And then I'll decide if I want the chevron or the snowflakes. That's going to go right there. And that card's going to get trimmed down just a little bit. There we go, just like that. So now we're ready to do this side and this side. So basically this is what you keep doing. You cut your pictures down, like for example, this one here. Let me cut these loose. I tie them together so that I don't lose them. Like this card, got quite a bit much space on it. I mean, it's bigger. So I have to decide. It has something on the back. And this is one of those that's going to work in here with a hinge. And it's going to get added in extra. So I'll show you that real quick. Find me a hinge. I haven't scored these, so I'm just going to fold it in half. Kind of cheating on this hinge. I'm just going to score it in half. You can do this with the pattern paper if you wanted to. Let me see how this looks like this. Needs to be a little narrow. It needs to be like just barely 1/4 of an inch on one side. So I'm just going to take my scissors. If you use big straight scissors, you can do this. You can get a pretty straight cut. So this skinnier one will go on the card, and I'm going to cut it shorter than the card so that it's only attached from here to here. So I'll get my glue. So it's good that this one popped up as an example to show you how to do certain cards where you want to see the front and the back. Move this right quick. I'm going to attach this to the back side of the card. The fold goes right along the cut edge of that card. I'm going to slide that up to kind of balance it. Got glue on it because it's skinnier. Burnish that down. Now then, now this is an example of where it's going to go on the inside. Make sure it doesn't go over the fold, and then you will cover this with pattern paper. So glue here, and nothing, as you can see, nothing is planned. As I get to each card, that's when I decide what I'm going to do with it. So right here, not up in the fold, but just about 1/8 of an inch, not 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch from the fold so that it still folds. And then this seam will be covered with paper. And then I also want to show you the ribbon closure. This is some really pretty sheer gold dot from Country Craft Creations. I'm not going to put it on just yet, but I would attach it with score tape. Leave the tail long enough on the side and wrap it all the way around. So you do put this on after you've put your pattern paper or your cover on, and then you can add paper over it, layers to decorate. So you would attach it here so that it ties here on the side. So that's that type of closure that I'm going to be using for my project. All done. And so have fun working with your cards and put them in your book. Once it's all in, then you will take your spine piece and cut it to what you need it to be, leaving about, just a finger width gap in there. And then you would glue it to the front and glue it to the back. Add some lace, different layer and trims, and just have fun with it. And just to remind you, I am not going to be showing you every card that I put in my book. I'll show you the finished results in a few days, maybe a week. Depends on how much I get to work on it tonight during the crop and tomorrow on New Year's Day. But I will have a finished book for my cards. This is my 2014-2015 and how I decorated it up. You put the cover spine cover on after everything is finished on the inside, so you know how big you want it here in this area. And remember, just about the width of a finger is all that you need space there. And I want to wish each of you a very happy new year. I hope you enjoy the crop, and good luck with all the prizes, games, and challenges. And thank you so much for watching. Remember to shop for your supplies for 2019 at Country Craft Creations. Bye-bye.